Welcome to my channel. Tonight's
The
story is
time has
called
come to
The
assert
Alien
our
Queen Called My
dominion.
Name. Her secret request shocked my world. Sit back, relax, and imagine yourself among the stars, where humanity's courage meets the unknown. The transmission came through in the middle of the night, cutting through the silence like a blade of light. Commander Elias Ward had seen a lifetime of battles across the galaxy. He had stood before admirals, warlords, and even the Galactic Council itself, but never had he been summoned by an alien queen. The message bore her royal seal, shimmering with fractal patterns of silver and violet. Human, it read in clear Terran standard, "You will come alone." The entire command deck froze as Ward read it aloud. The alien queen, Seraphis of the Thalari Dominion, had never spoken directly to a human before. The last time her people contacted Earth, entire fleets vanished near the Orion Rift. Everyone thought it was a trap. Everyone except Ward. He stared at the stars beyond the viewport, his reflection caught in the glass. "Set a course," he said quietly. "If she's calling my name, I need to know why." As the Terran frigate Resolute broke orbit, whispers spread across the fleet. Some said the Queen wanted peace, others said she wanted blood. The Galactic Council forbade the journey, calling it reckless human arrogance. But Ward didn't care. He had lost too many friends in the silent wars that followed the Council's betrayal. If the Queen had reached out, there had to be a reason. The ship glided through starlight and shadow, crossing the neutral zones where derelict alien hulks drifted like ghosts. Every deck hummed with unease. Humanity had fought for its place among the stars, clawing its way up from exile and mockery. The Thalari had once called humans the children of chaos. Now, one of their most powerful rulers was calling for him by name. When he arrived in the Thalari system, the scale of their world left him breathless. Giant spires of crystal and metal pierced through silver clouds. Lightning shimmered in slow motion across the upper atmosphere, glowing green and gold. The Queen's palace was carved from a living asteroid, orbiting her world like a moon. Ward disembarked alone, his uniform dark against the radiant corridor that seemed alive with energy. Alien guards lined the path, their faces hidden behind masks that glowed faintly with symbols of light. No words were spoken as he was led into the grand chamber. The air trembled with an unseen pulse, a rhythm that felt like the beating of a colossal heart. Then she appeared, the alien Queen Seraphis, tall and luminous, her form a perfect blend of beauty and power. Her skin shimmered like moonlit water, and her eyes held galaxies within them. She studied him with a strange softness, almost sorrow. "You came," she said, her voice resonating like a melody across the chamber. Ward bowed slightly, unsure whether to show respect or caution. "Your message was impossible to ignore." She smiled faintly, a ripple of light passing across her face. "Humanity has always been impossible to ignore," she replied. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence felt sacred, fragile. Then she stepped closer and said, "I need your help." The words hit him harder than any weapon. The Queen of the Thalari, whose empire stretched across 1,000 systems. Asking for help from a human? It made no sense. Ward frowned. "You command worlds. You have armies. What could you possibly need from me?" Her expression darkened. "A secret buried before your species left its cradle," she whispered. "Something older than the Council. Older than all of us." The chamber lights dimmed, and a holographic projection filled the space. It showed a vast, dead world, its surface cracked, glowing faintly from deep fissures. "This planet," she continued, "was once home to the architects, the first to shape matter from thought. They created us all. And now, something from their world has awakened." Ward stared at the image. In the projection, a pulse of blue light spread across the planet's ruins like a heartbeat. "What does that have to do with me?" he asked. The Queen's gaze softened again. "Because it called your name first." For a moment, the commander thought he misheard. "My name," she nodded. "In our archives, in the ruins we excavated, a human name, yours, was inscribed across a gate of solid crystal. It is as if the architects knew you were coming." Ward's chest tightened. He wasn't religious, but something about her tone made him feel small, almost insignificant before the weight of history. "That's impossible," he said quietly. "Humanity wasn't even part of the stars until 100 years ago." The Queen's voice lowered, almost trembling. "The architects did not live by time as we know it. They saw across futures. They saw you. They traveled together to the dead world. For the first time in galactic history, a human ship and a Thalari dreadnought flew side by side. The Galactic Council protested furiously, declaring Earth's involvement a breach of neutrality. But Earth no longer listened to the Council. Humanity had grown tired of their chains. The ruins loomed beneath them, massive towers half buried in dust, glowing faintly with impossible energy. When they landed, the air shimmered with static. Ward could feel it vibrating under his skin, whispering faintly in a language no one understood. The Queen walked beside him, her steps silent, her presence almost ethereal. "Do you feel it?" she asked softly. He nodded. It's remembering us." They reached the gate, a monumental arch of crystal etched with symbols that pulsed like breathing light. And there it was, his name, carved in flawless precision. Elias Ward. His heart pounded. He touched the surface, and suddenly the world roared to life. Light cascaded through the ruins like rivers, towers awakening after millennia of silence. The ground trembled. Ward stumbled back, but the Queen steadied him. The light formed a sphere above the gate, and a voice, not human, not alien, spoke into their minds. "The children have forgotten," it said. "The makers are gone, and the balance is broken. One of you will restore it." The voice faded, leaving only silence and the faint glow of the gate. The Queen turned to him, her eyes wide. "It chose you," she said. "Whatever the architects planned, it begins with you." Ward shook his head. "I'm just a soldier." She smiled sadly. "No, Commander. You are humanity, and perhaps that is what the galaxy needs." Over the next days, the two worked together, decoding ancient structures and unlocking memories left behind by the first beings. Ward learned that the architects had scattered fragments of their essence across the stars, waiting for the day when mortals, human or alien, would be ready to rebuild what was lost. But the Council learned of their mission and dispatched a fleet to destroy them, fearing what this alliance could mean. The Queen refused to retreat. "Let them come," she said coldly. "They will see what unity looks like." The battle that followed was beyond anything the galaxy had witnessed. The Queen's dreadnought unleashed storms of plasma, while the Resolute fought like a wolf among giants. Ward commanded with impossible precision, predicting enemy movements before they happened. The gate pulsed brighter with every moment, and when the Council's fleet surrounded them, Ward made a choice. He stepped into the light. The energy surged through him, lifting him off the ground. His voice echoed across every channel. "For too long, you called humanity reckless, but we remember who we are. We are the survivors of every extinction. We are the architects now." The light burst outward, disabling the Council's ships without killing a single life. The energy spread across the stars, restoring ancient worlds, awakening forgotten civilizations. When the storm faded, Ward collapsed, the Queen kneeling beside him. "It's done," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "No, it's just beginning." The galaxy changed that day. The Council no longer ruled through fear. Humanity and the Thalari built something new. A balance between old and new, machine and flesh, memory and hope. The Queen often visited Earth after that, standing beside Ward as allies, no longer enemies. When she looked at him, her voice was always soft. "They called you by name for a reason." And he would answer, "Maybe because they knew we'd never stop fighting for what's right." The stars shimmered above them, endless and alive, as if the architects were watching once more. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more HFY and sci-fi stories about humanity, courage, and the mysteries of the galaxy as the human ship Resolute entered Thalari space. The stars themselves seemed to change color, bending around the colossal gravity fields that protected the Queen's world. Commander Elias Ward stood at the viewport, his reflection flickering against the cosmic light, and for the first time in many years, he felt truly small. The Galactic Council had called him mad for accepting the invitation. They claimed the Thalari were not to be trusted, that they had destroyed human ships during the early border wars, but Ward had learned one thing about the galaxy: fear always hid truth. His crew moved quietly around him, their faces tense, but loyal to the last. Every man and woman on board knew this mission could end in their deaths, yet none questioned his decision. It was not bravery that drove them, it was curiosity, the same force that had always defined humanity. In the silence of space, curiosity was the spark that made them different from every other species. As the ship descended into the shimmering atmosphere, static electricity danced across the hull, and alien runes glowed like living veins across the clouds. They were entering forbidden airspace, and yet the Queen's permission granted them safe passage, an honor no human vessel had ever received. The first sight of her capital city was overwhelming. Towers of crystal reaching into turquoise clouds, floating gardens suspended by unseen energy, rivers of molten silver weaving through the streets like veins of light. The Thalari had built beauty and terror in equal measure. Ward could feel the weight of countless eyes watching his approach, some filled with curiosity, others with hatred. Humans were still the outsiders, the unpredictable anomaly of the galaxy. When the ship landed, a silence spread through the port. No fanfare, no guards, only stillness, like the calm before a storm. Ward stepped out alone, unarmed, wearing only his dark navy uniform marked by the insignia of Earth Command. His boots touched the silver stone of the landing deck, and the surface pulsed faintly beneath him, as though the planet itself were alive and breathing. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something ancient, a fragrance like rain after lightning. A procession of tall figures approached him, Thalari soldiers in gleaming armor that rippled like liquid metal. Their faces were hidden behind masks shaped like predator skulls, but their movements were graceful, almost mournful. They did not speak, only gestured for him to follow. He walked through corridors that glowed from within, every wall inscribed with flowing runes that shifted like language made of light. Each step echoed softly, his heartbeat matching the rhythm of the palace itself. He could feel the gravity changing as he ascended, his body lighter, his thoughts sharper. It was said that the Queen's palace was built on the bones of a dying star, its heart still burning deep beneath the floor. Then the chamber doors opened. He stepped into a hall so vast it seemed to have no end. Columns of light rose from the floor and vanished into mist, and between them stood statues of beings long gone, creatures neither human nor Thalari. Their faces were carved with sorrow. At the center of the chamber, on a throne that appeared to float above a shimmering pool of liquid glass, sat the alien Queen Seraphis. She did not move when he entered, but her eyes, vast and luminous, locked onto his as though she had been waiting for him for centuries. Her form was tall and elegant, her body encased in armor that seemed to be woven from the night sky itself, glowing faintly with starlight. Her presence was overwhelming, not just in size but in energy. She radiated command, wisdom, and an eerie stillness that felt almost divine. Ward froze, instinctively straightening his posture. He had faced admirals, alien lords, and council leaders, but never something like her. "Human?" she said at last, her voice resonating through the hall like a low song made of thunder and silk. "You answered my call." He nodded slowly, his throat dry. "I had to. No one else in the galaxy receives a message from a Thalari queen and lives to ignore it." Her lips curved slightly, almost amused, though her eyes betrayed no warmth. "You are bold, Commander. That is why I chose you." He frowned. "Chose me for what?" She rose from her throne with the grace of flowing light and stepped down to meet him. The chamber seemed to breathe with her movements, the walls shimmering with each word she spoke. "I have watched humanity rise," she said softly, "from a dying world to a force that defied extinction. The Council fears you because they cannot understand you. They forget what you remind them of." He took a cautious step forward. "And what's that?" Her gaze pierced through him. "Hope." she whispered. And chaos, the twin children of creation. He felt the words settle deep in his chest, stirring something ancient inside him. You didn't call me here just to compliment humanity, he said carefully. You called me because you need something. The queen tilted her head, studying him like one might study a dangerous but fascinating creature. Yes, she said finally. I need you to remember what your kind has forgotten. She gestured toward the pool of glass beside her throne. The surface rippled, revealing visions. Vast cities crumbling into dust, stars collapsing into darkness. And then a planet unlike any other, covered in ruins that pulsed faintly with blue light. This world, she said, is where all of us began. The Thalari, the council races, even humanity. The architects created us there, long before we learned to walk among the stars. We were their children, and then we rebelled. Her eyes dimmed as if recalling a wound that never healed. The council erased this truth. They feared what it would mean if we remembered our shared origin. But the planet has awakened again. Its signal reached me first, and then it spoke your name. Ward stared at the vision, disbelief warring with fear. That's impossible, he muttered. My name isn't written in alien ruins. The queen stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that seemed to echo in his bones. It is not written, she said. It is spoken by the world itself. The energy that sleeps beneath its crust called to me in your voice. It said, bring the human who remembers. His blood ran cold. He wanted to speak, to argue, to deny it. But deep down, something in him stirred, as though he had been waiting for this moment his entire life. Why me? He asked finally. Because, the queen said, turning away, humanity was the last race the architects touched. You were their final experiment. You carry their fire. The silence stretched. Ward glanced again at the glowing images in the pool, massive gates of crystal, buried temples, symbols that looked like constellations twisting into the shape of a human hand. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once. The queen looked over her shoulder, her voice calm but filled with gravity. If we do not answer the architect's call, something far worse than war will come. The council thinks it controls the stars, but the stars themselves are beginning to wake. She turned fully to face him again, and for the first time he saw fear in her eyes. I cannot face this alone. You must come with me, Commander. Together, we will uncover what your ancestors left behind. Ward exhaled slowly, the weight of her words pressing on his chest like a mountain. He looked up at the stars visible through the glass dome above the throne room, countless points of light burning silently in the void. He thought of Earth, of the fragile blue world that had somehow survived everything the galaxy threw at it. Humanity had always been underestimated, called reckless, primitive, emotional. Yet time and again, it was their emotion that saved them. He turned back to her. If what you're saying is true, he said quietly, then this isn't just your secret, Your Majesty. It's ours. A faint smile ghosted across her lips, something almost human. Then we begin at dawn. And in that instant, Ward understood the magnitude of what he had agreed to. This was no diplomatic mission, no simple alliance. It was the beginning of a truth the galaxy had buried for eons, and humanity, for better or worse, was about to dig it back up. As the chamber lights dimmed and the queen vanished into the mist of her throne, Ward stood alone, his reflection rippling across the floor. For the first time in his life, he wasn't just fighting for Earth. He was fighting for the memory of creation itself. The morning came not with sunlight, but with a slow burn of silver clouds that glowed from within. Commander Elias Ward stood on the balcony of his guest chamber, watching as the alien dawn rose across the Thalari capital. Below him, the city pulsed like a living organism. Towers breathed faintly, bridges of light stretched between them like veins, and every structure seemed to hum in time with an invisible heart. Humanity had never seen such beauty, and yet Ward felt no peace. His reflection in the glass looked older, heavier. The queen's words echoed in his mind. The architects made us all. The stars are waking again. He didn't understand it fully, but something in his gut told him she was right. The galaxy was changing. The council was already restless. The news of his meeting with Seraphis had surely reached them by now. Soon they would act. Humanity had always been seen as the unpredictable child of the stars, and Ward, defying council orders, had just become their living symbol of rebellion. He heard the soft chime of the chamber door opening, and one of the Queen's attendants stepped in. Her voice was musical, calm. "The Queen awaits you, human commander. The journey must begin before the council reacts." Ward nodded, fastening his uniform collar, his eyes steady but his pulse uneasy. "Then let's move. I have a feeling we're running out of time." The royal hangar was nothing like a human one. There were no metal floors or harsh lights. Instead, everything shimmered with a soft bioluminescent glow, the ships resting like creatures asleep in a tide pool. The Queen stood near the largest of them, a living vessel of black glass and silver light. Its surface rippled as though breathing, its engines humming with the rhythm of the planet itself. She turned as he approached. "The ship's name is Velora," she said quietly. "She was built from the heart of a dying moon. Only two may enter her sanctum. You and I." Ward raised an eyebrow. "So, no crew, no guards?" The Queen's lips curved faintly. "Where we go, Commander, no army will matter." He nodded, trusting her more than logic allowed, and followed her into the vessel. The interior felt alive. Walls pulsed faintly beneath his hand, and corridors adjusted their shape as they walked. At the center was a chamber filled with floating crystals, rotating in slow circles. The Queen touched one, and a web of light spread across the walls. "This ship does not fly through space as you know it," she explained. "It remembers the paths between stars. We are not traveling to the world of the architects. We are awakening it." The Velora rose from the hangar like a whisper, disappearing into the sky. Outside, the clouds parted, and the ship vanished into the folds of hyperspace. Ward had traveled through hundreds of jumps before, but this was different. He felt no acceleration, no motion, only silence, endless and deep. He looked toward the Queen, who stood in quiet concentration, her hands folded before her chest, her eyes closed. "What are you doing?" he asked softly. "Listening," she said. "The world we go to, Elindra, it sleeps beneath its own ruins. It does not wake easily. It speaks through dreams and memory. To find it, we must let it remember us." Ward frowned. "And if it remembers something it doesn't like?" The Queen opened her eyes, their glow reflecting the distant stars. "Then we will remind it what humanity stands for." Her voice was steady, but there was something in it, something like fear, or maybe hope, disguised as strength. Hours, or perhaps days, passed in that strange silence. The ship moved not through distance but through thought, crossing boundaries that no map could define. Ward began to dream without sleeping, visions of cities made of glass and shadow, of beings of light walking through oceans of stars. He saw humanity's past and future tangled together, wars, peace, extinction, rebirth. When he finally awoke, the ship had stopped. Outside the viewport hung a planet shrouded in pale mist, its surface cracked like old glass, glowing faintly from within. Elindra, the birthplace of creation, forgotten by all. Ward stared at it, his voice low. "It looks dead." The Queen's tone was solemn. "No, it waits." They descended through the mist. The surface of the planet was silent, lifeless, yet beautiful beyond reason. Mountains of crystal reached toward a broken sky, and rivers of liquid light flowed through canyons carved by forces older than time. Every step they took left glowing footprints that faded slowly behind them. The Queen led him to the ruins of what must have been a temple, an immense structure half buried in silver sand, surrounded by statues that seemed to watch them. Ward could feel a hum beneath his feet, soft at first but growing stronger the deeper they went. The air thickened, filled with a faint whisper like a song from underwater. "Do you hear that?" he asked quietly. The Queen nodded. "It's the memory of the architects. They do not speak in words, but in echoes." They entered the heart of the temple, where a vast circular gate stood upright, carved from translucent crystal. Symbols moved across its surface like ripples on water. Ward froze when he saw his name glowing faintly among them. Elias Ward, etched in perfect human script. His breath caught in his throat. "How?" he whispered. The Queen stepped closer. "It was here before you were born, before your world even existed. The architects saw you." He touched the gate, and the world answered. The ground shuddered, a wave of energy surging outward as the ruins came alive. Light poured through cracks in the walls, spreading like veins through the ancient stone. The air filled with the deep hum of awakening machinery, and from the gate itself, a voice spoke, not in sound, but directly into their minds. It was ancient, heavy with power, yet calm like a parent's whisper. "The children return," it said. "The circle was broken. The flame was scattered. You carry the last spark." Ward fell to his knees, clutching his head as visions flooded his mind. Galaxies forming, civilizations rising and falling. The architects weaving life across stars like artists painting on endless canvas. He saw them create the Thalari, proud and radiant. He saw them shape humanity, small but fierce, a species made to survive chaos. And then he saw their end, an implosion of light as they vanished, leaving behind fragments of their essence in every species. When the visions faded, Ward gasped for breath, trembling. The Queen knelt beside him, her face pale. "What did you see?" she asked softly. He looked at her, eyes wide. "I saw the beginning," he whispered, "and the end, and it's happening again." The Queen rose, her expression grave. "The architects left something unfinished," she said. "The Council fears this truth. They built their rule on the lie that they were chosen to lead. If the galaxy learns that all life came from one source, their empire collapses." Ward wiped the sweat from his brow, trying to steady himself. "So that's why they'll come for us," he said. "They'll try to bury this again." The Queen nodded slowly. "They are already on their way." The moment the gate awakened, the signal reached them. But the gate will not close again. It has chosen you, Elias. You are its voice now. He stared at the glowing crystal, the symbols still moving in quiet rhythm, and for the first time in his life, he felt something greater than fear, purpose. "Then let them come," he said quietly. "Let them see what humanity remembers." As the light from the gate washed over them, the ground trembled harder. In the distance, thunder rolled, not from the sky, but from the stars themselves. Ships were coming, the Council's fleets. Ward looked up, his jaw tightening. The Queen's voice broke the silence. "We cannot run, but perhaps we can awaken what sleeps below." She placed her hand on the crystal, and the light surged higher, forming a sphere that expanded outward like a heartbeat. The entire planet began to glow, and deep beneath the surface, something massive stirred. An ancient machine the size of a continent, the final creation of the architects. Humanity and Thalari stood together before it, the living and the forgotten, united by a single purpose. Ward looked at the Queen, his voice firm and calm. "Whatever happens now, Your Majesty, this will be the moment they stop underestimating humanity." And as the alien Queen's eyes met his, glowing like burning suns, the stars themselves seemed to lean closer, listening. The air around the gate rippled like heat over desert sand as the light continued to grow, spilling through every crack of the ancient temple and spreading across the ruins like a river of stars. Commander Elias Ward stood with his hand pressed to the glowing surface, feeling a rhythm that was not his own but pulsed through his chest as if his heart had joined with the planet itself. The alien Queen Seraphis watched in silence, her eyes glowing with the same eerie blue fire, her expression unreadable. "It's waking," she whispered. Beneath their feet, the ground shuddered again, deeper this time, followed by a low, distant rumble that seemed to come from the planet's core. "What did we just do?" Ward muttered under his breath, stepping back. But before either of them could speak further, the voice returned, deep, resonant, calm like an ocean before a storm. "The balance is broken. The flame must be carried once more." The Queen turned toward Ward, realization dawning across her face. "It's not just a memory," she said. It's a command. Suddenly, the crystal arch flared with light, and a beam shot upward into the sky, piercing the clouds and continuing far beyond, into orbit. Ward's wrist communicator exploded with static. Then came the sound he dreaded most, the harsh mechanical tone of Council encryption codes breaking through. A voice filled with arrogance and cold fury echoed across the open channel. "This is Admiral Kale of the Galactic Council Fleet. All unauthorized vessels are to stand down immediately. You are violating Article 7 of the Interstellar Accord." The Queen closed her eyes, her voice low. "They are early." Ward clenched his fists. "They've come to bury the truth again." Above them, the heavens came alive. Dozens of Council dreadnoughts emerged from hyperspace, their black hulls blotting out the stars. The sight was terrifying, but beautiful in its symmetry. A dark armada floating over a world of light. The Queen raised her hand, summoning a projection between them. "Look," she said softly. The display showed hundreds of ships forming a blockade. "They will not allow the Architect's world to live." Ward's voice hardened. "Then we make sure it does." She looked at him with something between pride and sorrow. "The Council believes themselves gods. Let us remind them what mortals can do." Without another word, she pressed her palm to the gate, and the planet answered her touch. The ground cracked open in vast lines of fire, and something colossal began to rise from beneath the surface. A structure of crystal and metal the size of a continent. It unfolded like wings emerging from the earth, shimmering with ancient energy. The sky shook as dust and lightning erupted around it. Ward stepped back, shielding his face. "What is that?" The Queen's voice trembled with reverence. "The last of the Architect engines. A guardian. It sleeps to defend the memory of creation." The massive structure continued to rise, revealing enormous towers and a central sphere that pulsed like a heart. The voice spoke again, this time directly to Ward. "You are the spark, the flame of chaos reborn. Command, and the stars will listen." Ward's breath caught. "Me?" he whispered. "I'm just a man." The Queen turned toward him, her expression softening. "You are humanity, Elias Ward. You carry what the Architects gave your kind, the will to act when others hesitate." Outside, the first Council destroyers began to fire, beams of plasma tearing through the upper atmosphere. Explosions lit the sky, but before the fire could reach the surface, the planet itself responded. Massive pillars of light shot upward, forming a shield that bent the energy away, scattering it harmlessly into the clouds. The Council fleet paused, confused. "They're hesitating," Ward said. "Good. Let them wonder." He turned to the Queen. "Can you control this thing?" She shook her head slowly. "Not control, only guide. But it listens to you." Ward took a deep breath, stepping toward the glowing gate again. "Then I'll try." He closed his eyes, placing his hand on the crystal surface, and focused on the hum within it. Instantly, images flashed in his mind, the Architects watching from the edge of creation, the birth of galaxies, the rise and fall of species, and then humanity, fragile but unyielding, standing on a world of storms. He felt the same pulse within himself, the will to survive, the refusal to kneel. The power surged through him like fire, and the great machine responded. In orbit, the Council fleet panicked. Their scanners showed the planet's energy rising beyond measurable limits. "Shut it down!" someone shouted over the open channel, but it was too late. From the cracks of Alindra's surface, beams of pure light shot into space, striking the enemy ships not with heat or force, but with something stranger memory. The vessels froze, their crews overwhelmed by visions of the past, the creation of their species, the faces of the Architects who made them. Entire squadrons halted mid-attack, paralyzed by the truth that had been denied for eons. "What's happening to them?" Ward asked, panting, his voice echoing through the chamber. The Queen's voice was calm, her eyes locked on the rising machine. "They are seeing what we forgot. The Architects are reminding them who they are." But not all ships stopped. The Council's flagship, a colossal vessel known as the Valiant's Wrath, broke formation, aiming directly for the surface. "Admiral Kale," Ward muttered, recognizing the pattern. He'll burn the world to keep his lie alive. The queen nodded grimly. Then we must show him the truth another way. She extended her hand toward him. Together, he took it without hesitation. The moment their hands met, the chamber filled with blinding light. The machine above them roared to life, drawing energy from the planet's core, channeling it through the gate. Ward could feel his thoughts merge with the queen's, two minds, one purpose. The architect's energy flowed through them both, ancient and alive. In orbit, the council fleet reeled as the planet below began to glow brighter than a star. "They're charging a weapon," Kale shouted, but before his command could echo through the comms, the light burst outward. Not as destruction, but revelation. Every ship, every crew member, every being connected to the council's network saw the same vision. A vast image of the architects standing at the dawn of time, their voices speaking across the cosmos. "You were not made to rule. You were made to remember." The ships fell silent. Some powered down completely. Others turned away, unable to face what they had seen. But the flagship pressed on, driven by Kale's rage. "You think you can rewrite history?" His voice boomed over the channel. "You think humanity matters?" Ward answered calmly, his voice echoing through every speaker. "We are what you fear, Admiral. We are the reminder that you were never gods." Then, with a single thought, he willed the machine to act. A pulse of light surged from the planet, gentle yet unstoppable. It struck the flagship, not tearing it apart but dissolving its energy field, stripping away its weapons, its hatred, its illusions. When the light faded, the ship drifted powerless among the stars, its hull intact but its pride gone. The council fleet broke formation, retreating into hyperspace one by one, their systems too shaken to fight. Silence returned. The sky was clear again, only the soft hum of the awakening world beneath them. Ward fell to one knee, exhausted, his chest burning as if the power itself had drained through his soul. The queen caught him before he fell completely, her voice trembling with emotion. "It's over." He shook his head weakly. "No, it's only beginning. They'll regroup. They always do." She smiled faintly. "Then we'll be ready. The truth cannot be buried again." Together they stood beneath the radiant gate as the planet's glow began to fade into a calm heartbeat, steady and alive. The architect engine had gone silent, waiting once more, but now the galaxy knew. Humanity had heard the call, and the stars themselves had answered. The battle was over, but silence had never felt so heavy. Above the planet Alindra, wreckage drifted like dark snow. The remains of the once invincible Galactic Council fleet now powerless, their engines dead, their pride shattered. The great architect engine below the surface hummed faintly, no longer a weapon but a heartbeat, slow and eternal, echoing across space like the pulse of a newborn world. Commander Elias Ward stood at the edge of the temple's shattered balcony, the cold wind whipping through the glowing ruins, carrying the scent of ozone and dust. The sky was clearing, revealing thousands of distant stars, and for the first time, he could see the galaxy without fear, endless, quiet, waiting. His voice came low, weary. "It's strange," he said. "The galaxy's quieter when no one's pretending to be in charge." Queen Seraphis stood beside him, her silver-blue robes flowing like liquid starlight, her eyes still burning faintly from the energy she had channeled. "Power never truly vanishes," she replied softly. "It only changes hands." Ward turned toward her, studying her expression. "And whose hands are they in now?" She looked up at the stars, her tone distant, heavy with both pride and sorrow. "Yours, Commander. Humanity's. The Council is broken, and their empires will crumble. The truth we released cannot be contained." He let out a breath, rubbing the back of his neck, his face lined with exhaustion. "That's not what I wanted," he said. "I didn't come here to rule anything." The Queen's gaze softened. "That is why the architects chose you." Below them, the planet glowed faintly with new life. The cracks in the surface that had once been rivers of fire were now filled with streams of living light, spreading outward like veins across a sleeping giant's skin. Creatures of strange beauty began to emerge from the depths, living remnants of the architect's designs, long dormant, now waking as if summoned by the memory of creation itself. Ward watched in quiet awe as flocks of crystal-winged beings rose into the air, their reflections shimmering in the mirror-like waters below. "They're alive," he whispered. "After all this time." The queen nodded, her voice soft as the wind. "The architects never meant for us to destroy. They built worlds to heal themselves. They gave us the will to survive so we would one day restore what was lost." Ward glanced at her, the realization heavy on his face. "Then that's our job now, to rebuild, not conquer." She met his eyes and smiled, the first true smile he had seen from her since their meeting. "You speak like an architect yourself, Elias Ward." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "I'm just a soldier who got lucky." "No," she said gently. "You are something far rarer, a soldier who remembers why he fights." They stayed there for a long time, watching the sky, until the silence broke with a soft chime from Ward's communicator. A voice crackled through, human, hesitant. "Commander, this is Captain Liu aboard the Resolute. We're picking up transmissions across the galaxy. The Council fleets are falling back. Some are declaring independence. Others, they're asking for talks." Ward exhaled slowly. "Patch me through." He waited as static filled the air, then spoke with the calm authority of a man who had carried too much for too long. "This is Commander Ward of Earth Command. The truth has been revealed. The architects made all of us, human, alien, council, even the forgotten. This galaxy no longer belongs to those who control it through fear. It belongs to those who remember where they came from." The line went silent, then came a single reply, a voice, trembling but sincere. "Understood, Commander. What are your orders?" Ward looked at the Queen, then at the stars. "Tell them, there are no more orders. There's only rebuilding. If they want peace, they'll find it here." The message spread across subspace like wildfire, carried on every frequency. Humanity, the race once mocked and dismissed, now speaking with a voice the galaxy could not ignore. As days passed, the ruins of Alindra became a gathering place. Delegates from 100 worlds came to stand beneath the shining arches and listen to the pulse of the ancient machine. Some came with fear, others with hope, but all came knowing the age of the council was ending. The Queen ruled with quiet wisdom, no longer as an empress but as a guide, and Ward became her equal in all but name, the bridge between humanity and the stars. Together they rebuilt the alliance not with treaties or weapons but with truth. Ward taught the aliens the value of imperfection, of failure, of trying again. The Thalari taught humanity how to listen, how to see the universe not as something to conquer but as something to protect. Slowly, the hatred that had burned for centuries began to cool. At night, when the delegations left and the lights dimmed, Ward often walked alone among the glowing ruins. The planet seemed to whisper to him in the wind, fragments of voices, echoes of the architect's thoughts. Sometimes he thought he could almost understand them. The Queen often found him there, her presence calm, her steps soundless. "You still listen to ghosts," she would say softly, and he would smile faintly. "Maybe they still have something to teach me." One night, she joined him on the balcony overlooking the reborn city. The stars above were brighter than ever, and the air shimmered with quiet energy. "When I first saw you," she said slowly, "I thought you were just another reckless human, a spark that would burn and fade. But you have done what even the architects could not. You have united those who were never meant to be united." He looked at her, his expression tired but peaceful. "I didn't unite anyone. The truth did. I just stopped running from it." She turned toward him, her eyes glowing faintly. "Still, it was your voice the world answered." Ward met her gaze and said, "Maybe because humanity's voice has always been the same. We shout, we bleed, we fall. But we never stop reaching for the light." The Queen stepped closer, her expression unreadable. "And when the light burns too bright?" she asked softly. Ward's smile faded, his tone somber. "Then we hold the line until it cools. That's what we do." A silence followed, filled only by the distant hum of the architect engine below. Then the Queen said something unexpected, a whisper that carried both vulnerability and strength. Elias, when this began, I thought I was saving the galaxy. But I think now, it was the galaxy saving us. He didn't answer immediately, only looked up at the stars, their reflection dancing in her silver eyes. Maybe it's both, he finally said. Maybe this is what the architects meant all along. Not gods ruling from above, but people learning to stand together. The wind shifted, carrying a faint melody. The same hum they had heard in the ruins, softer now, peaceful. The Queen smiled faintly. Then perhaps their dream lives on. Ward turned to her, his voice gentle. As long as humanity remembers, it will. And so, the world of Alindra became more than a myth. It became the heart of a new beginning. The Council's banners fell, replaced by a symbol of unity. A hand of light cradling a single star, the mark of the Remembrance Pact. Earth joined the Thalari not as subjects or conquerors, but as partners in rebuilding the galaxy's soul. The Queen stood beside Ward when the first declaration was signed, her voice steady and calm as she spoke before the entire galaxy. We were made by the same hands. We are bound by the same memory. Let no one forget again. As the chamber erupted in applause, Ward caught her gaze. Neither of them smiled fully. They both knew how fragile peace was. But for that moment it was real. And when the night came again, and the stars shimmered above Alindra, Ward whispered quietly to himself, "If they're watching, I hope they're proud." And deep beneath the planet, the great architect engine pulsed once. A slow, soft heartbeat, as if the creators themselves had answered. Weeks turned into months, and months into quiet seasons on Alindra, the world of beginnings. The galaxy had changed more in those months than it had in centuries. Where fleets once clashed, now ships carried diplomats and builders. Worlds that had lived under the Council's fear began to rebuild their own governments, not through domination but through shared purpose. Yet, peace, fragile as glass, carried its own kind of burden. Commander Elias Ward felt it every morning when he walked through the ancient halls of the Architect Temple, where the air still hummed faintly with their forgotten voices. He had become something of a legend, the human who answered the call of the first ones, the man who silenced empires without firing a shot. But to him, the silence of the temple was louder than any applause. It reminded him of what had been lost, and of the truth he still couldn't quite explain. Sometimes he would stand before the great crystal gate, now dormant, and feel that pulse still faintly beating beneath his fingertips, like the echo of a heart that had not truly stopped. The Queen often joined him there, her presence always calm, but her eyes carried a sadness deeper than he could ever voice. "It speaks to you still," she would say softly, and he would answer, "It's waiting for something." One morning, before dawn, he woke to find the air trembling again. The light outside his window flickered like the reflection of a storm, though the sky was clear. He hurried to the temple, his boots echoing through the vast corridors of glass and stone. And there she was, the alien Queen Seraphis, standing before the gate, her hands pressed to its surface. The crystal glowed faintly under her touch. "It's calling again," she said without turning, her voice soft, almost reverent. "But not to me this time." Ward stepped closer, the familiar hum filling the air around them. "To who, then?" he asked quietly. She turned to him, her face lit by the pale blue glow. "To you." The words hit him like a cold wind. "Why now?" he asked. "The war is over. The truth is out." She shook her head slowly. "Because the galaxy is awake, Elias. But the architect's task is not finished. The gate remembers, and it remembers you." The light brightened, spreading across the walls, filling the chamber with warmth that felt like both a welcome and a farewell. Then the voice returned, ancient and vast, echoing through every particle of air. "The balance is restored, but the flame must be carried forward. The children have learned unity. Now they must learn to protect it." Ward and the Queen looked at each other, both understanding what it meant. The architects were not done guiding, and humanity had been chosen to carry their legacy. He stood before the gate as the light surrounded him, and he felt that same rush he had once felt during the awakening, the sense of something greater than life itself reaching out to him. Images flooded his mind. Planets rebuilding, species shaking hands for the first time, children of alien races studying side by side, human ships crossing the stars not for war, but for rebuilding lost worlds. The architects showed him what could be, but also what would happen if that unity ever faded, the return of chaos, greed, and silence. He felt the weight of the vision press into his heart, a responsibility beyond titles or medals. The voice faded, leaving only a single whisper in his mind. Remember us by your choices. When he opened his eyes again, the chamber was still, the light fading slowly into the stone. The queen approached, her gaze soft but steady. "What did they say?" she asked. Ward looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "That this isn't the end. They want humanity to lead, not through power, but through memory." The queen lowered her head, her silver hair catching the dim light. "Then you must return to your world." The words stung more than he expected. "Return," he echoed. "After everything we built here?" She met his eyes. "Yes, Elindra will live without us. But humanity still needs you. The galaxy listens to Earth now, but it must learn from it, not worship it. You are the bridge, Elias. The gate will open one last time for you." He stepped closer, shaking his head. "And what about you?" She smiled faintly, though her eyes betrayed the sorrow she carried. "I am bound to this world. The architect's energy flows through me now. I will remain as its guardian, its memory." Her hand touched his arm lightly, a gesture filled with both strength and tenderness. "You gave my people something we had forgotten, the courage to trust. That is more than any alliance could offer." He searched for words, but none came. Instead, he reached out, placing his hand over hers. "And you gave humanity something we never had, a reason to believe we belong among the stars." For a moment, the two stood in silence, surrounded by the soft hum of the sleeping gate. Then she stepped back, her voice calm and final. "When you cross, you will carry part of its light within you. The world will remember what you've done, Elias Ward, but never what you sacrificed." The gate began to glow again, brighter than ever before. The air shimmered with rising energy, the floor vibrating beneath their feet. Ward looked up one last time at the queen, her form outlined in the light like a living statue of starlight. "Goodbye, Seraphis," he said quietly. She smiled, and for the first time, her voice trembled with emotion. "No, Commander. There are no goodbyes among stars, only echoes." The gate flared, engulfing him in a wave of light, and then he was gone. When he opened his eyes, he was standing on the bridge of the Resolute, orbiting Earth. His crew turned in shock. He had vanished months ago, presumed lost. Outside the viewport, Earth turned slowly beneath them, blue and bright, beautiful and alive. For a long moment, he said nothing, only stared at the home he had almost forgotten. Then he whispered, "We're not alone anymore." The words spread through every communication line, every ship, every outpost. Humanity had returned, not as conquerors, but as keepers of remembrance. In the years that followed, Earth became a beacon world, not through strength but through understanding. The Remembrance Pact grew into a council of equals, and no one ruled through fear again. And sometimes, on quiet nights, Elias Ward would walk alone beneath Earth's sky, looking up at the stars, feeling the faint pulse of Elindra deep within his heart. He would close his eyes and hear her voice again, soft, distant, eternal. "Remember us by your choices." And far across the galaxy, beneath the glowing towers of Elindra, the alien queen stood once more before the great crystal gate. The stars reflected in her eyes as she whispered to the darkness. He carried the flame. And deep beneath her feet, the ancient machine answered with a single heartbeat, slow, calm, and alive. The galaxy slept in peace that night, under the watch of those who remembered. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more HFY and sci-fi stories about humanity, courage, and the mysteries of the galaxy.